So the topic for this week is inside. I'm going to save that. We'll do an exercise and then I'll talk, I think. Otherwise I'll end up going ways off. Okay, we'll do our sitting exercise to start, just to get us nicely present. So we'll start by having a look around, seeing what we can see. When you've taken in some shapes and colours, you can close your eyes and turn your attention to your body and what you can feel. And this time we'll start at the bottom, so be aware of your feet in contact with the floor. Then coming up, aware of your legs. Aware of the point your legs come into contact with the chair. The weight of your body pressing down into your bottom. And then move up and become aware of the spine and the back. Aware of the chest. Coming up further still, become aware of the shoulders. Gravity pulling down through the shoulders, down through the arms. You can become aware of your hands all the way down to your fingertips. And aware of your head and your neck. And become aware of your skin and things being in contact with your skin, so your clothes, and the movement of air. And taste, become aware of the taste in your mouth at this moment. And then smell. And then next we'll just sit for a while and become aware of sound. Bringing the awareness back to sound every time the mind wanders. Just allowing our awareness of sound to spread. If your mind does wander, just be aware of where it's wandered to. And acknowledge that before bringing it back to listening. And then when you're ready, you may open your eyes. I went to the cinema at the weekend with my children, and we watched a film called Inside Out, which is where the topic comes from this week, Inside. I don't know if anybody has seen it advertised.
I haven't seen it, I've seen it advertised.
So it's an animated film, and the premise is there's the central character is this young girl, but the film is about her emotions, and they have characterized her emotions. So they exist in her head, and there's joy, which is kind of the main character from the set of emotions. The joy, the sadness, fear, which they kind of develop into this sort of anxious character, disgust and anger. And it's a good film. It's all right. It's good. It's entertaining, but it's also looking at it from a mindful perspective, as I did. It does serve as quite a good illustration of what can go on internally. I don't want to give any spoilers because maybe you're going to want to go and see it.
No.
Well, I should definitely be glad to see it.
I'll try and avoid too many
How
spoilers.
about next Tuesday up by 7 onwards?
But it starts off and there's the little girl's just a little baby, and the only emotion is joy, and she's there looking out through this girl's eyes, and she just has this one button, and she presses the button and the little girl laughs, and then all of a sudden Joy looks around and there's somebody else pressing the button, and it's sadness that's come along. So, and of course when sadness presses the button, the little girl cries and the baby cries, and obviously as the little girl grows and develops, more and more emotions come along, and the control panel gets more buttons on it and gets bigger. And but the way that they interpret it is that the emotion that's in control at any one point in time sort of seems to be either the one that gets to the control panel first, or the one that jostles everybody out of the way and says, I'll handle this. Which is quite a nice illustration. That seems to be what happens, isn't it? The emotion within us that shouts the loudest at any given point in time seems to be the one that gets to take control and react to whatever is taking place. So I found that quite interesting. It was quite nice the way that they illustrated that. Anger will come marching over and go, I'll deal with this, rah! And he'll just go off on one and he'll just push the levers forward.
We decided it would be brilliant if people did change colour to tell you what mood they're in.
Yeah.
Just get red in the face.
Yeah.
You're angry. Or embarrassed.
And then what happens as the story develops then, the girl starts approaching her teenage years. So she's getting older, things are starting to get a bit more complicated. And up until that point, joy had always been the overriding thing. It was all about being happy, and it's all about joy and happiness, being in control and shaping all the events and shaping all the memories so that everything's happy and everything's lovely. But sort of sadness is coming into it more and more, and it starts off where it appears to be that sadness is just sort of interfering, and they want to try and push sadness to one side and just say, look, you just stay over there and don't touch anything and don't interfere, and you just stay in that sad circle over there and leave it all to us. But as the story unfolds, they realise that there is a place for sadness, and that sadness has a purpose, and that even though this little girl generates these sad memories, which are important memories for her, even though they are sad, there's still something positive about that, and there's the opportunity to grow, and out of that sadness, happiness can also develop. Which is all, and it's good. I think as a lesson, and certainly for kids, it's a good lesson to because we've talked about it, haven't we? The fact that life is this up and down thing, and you can't expect it to be flat all the time. So we watched the film, and we enjoyed the film, and we learnt our important lesson, and had the happy ending on that. And then I started thinking about it again, more from the mindful perspective. Thinking, okay, if this is about observing emotions and observing our feelings and how they are interacting and which one's coming into prominence at which time and all that kind of thing, what's different or what's missing from that scene that they've created and sort of, I suppose, a more realistic, mindful approach? And I realised it was the observer was missing. There was no observer sitting above all of that. And I thought, hang on a minute, actually there was an observer. There was me sitting in the cinema watching it on the screen. So there was an observer. I was playing the role of that observer, detached from it, potentially indifferent, non-judgmental, watching the action unfold. And then I started to think, well, if the observer, if that is a suitable model for what's happening from a human perspective, what good does the observer have? Because I'm completely detached. I have no ability to influence what's happening on the screen. The characters don't know I'm there. I can't shout at them and influence them. And from a mindful perspective, there is an element of that, isn't it? If we are practicing developing our awareness so that we are non-judgmental and accepting of everything, then it kind of has to go, well, what's the point in being mindfulness if it doesn't have the ability to influence what's happening? How does that work? So I had to think about this a little bit more. And I realised that actually, whilst the observer sits above our, conscious day-to-day thinking, it sits above our emotions, and may not directly influence those, I began to realise that actually what happens is when we practice being mindful, when we do our little meditation or we take that pause throughout the day, it pauses everything. So going back to that image of me in the cinema watching these action unfold, me as the observer, whilst I can't shout at the characters, whilst my observer can't shout at my emotions and go, oi, pack it in, don't get angry, stop being like this. What it does do, or what it does have the power to do, is to be able to just kind of pause it. If I was the observer in the sense that we have talked about the role of the observer and the purpose of the observer, that image of me in the cinema as the observer, I would basically have a pause button. So at points throughout the film, I could just go pause and allow the characters, allow those emotions or allow those thoughts to pause. and for the action to pause. And not pause in the sense of them just sort of freeze frame and then carry on again, but sort of the action pauses, and then those emotions and those thoughts and those ideas can go, hang on a minute, what's going on? Okay, right, let's just reorganise things. I'm at the control panel, I shouldn't be at the control panel. This is not a time to be angry. Come on, you take over the control panel. And then that reshuffling can happen all by itself, and then the observer can then go, that's better, play. That's kind of that, in terms of trying to illustrate it with that image, that's kind of how I see it. In that the observer shouldn't be up there, or isn't able really to be up there directing the action. You do this, you do that, you stop doing this, respond like this, do that. It's not really like that, because it is a much more passive thing. But what we are able to do, almost as a sort of, I suppose, what our conscious mind is able to do, is bridge the gap, and just occasionally just nudge the observer to pause it, so that our thoughts and our emotions can just go, okay, where are we? What's going on? Oh, right, we need to just realign things and reshuffle things a bit before we carry on.
What reaction did you get from your children? How did they view it?
They enjoyed it. We didn't really have a particularly deep and meaningful discussion about it afterwards. I think I touched on the fact. I touched on the role of sadness, but they were more interested in getting home to get some fish and chips.
But sometimes they throw something at you, don't they? You think, they did take that on board.
We'll wait and see. There's probably something fermenting there, which will come out at some random, inopportune moment. But it was interesting, and it was thought-provoking. But I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
To you? Because I suppose I suppose it's me thinking about that tendency to think of people that are mindful as being really passive. It's that, and I often talk about that demeanour of being, whatever. I'm passive. Whatever.
But that isn't what mindfulness is all about.
Exactly. It is about being aware and embracing everything, and it's a much more active and involved way of being. And so for me it's about consolidating that observer as not being just this completely passive part of our being, completely separated from everything else that's going on, because it isn't. It's not severed. It isn't. It isn't this God standing in his watchtower with a spotlight, or the director sitting in the chair directing activity. Whilst it is just able to observe and be pure awareness, it is able to not exert its influence, but exert its awareness. That's the word. It's not about influencing what's happening, because the observer is just pure awareness. It's kind of able to go, we need some awareness over there. Pause, become aware, take some of my awareness, be aware of the situation, and determine what needs to be done. And I kind of see it much more like that. It's like a touchstone. It's almost as if our conscious thought has to be this little middleman sometimes, and just remind itself that it needs to almost refer back to the observer, so that it can just shine its light of awareness on different elements. Because that's what happens, isn't it? That with the practice of mindfulness, you have to make a conscious effort. You have to say, right, I am going to dedicate. The observer doesn't do that. The observer doesn't sit there going, you haven't been mindful for a couple of days, you need to sit for 5 minutes. That's our conscious mind that has to do that in order to connect with the observer and connect the observer with all the other elements of being, whether that's emotion or thought or whatever.
So, I wasn't going to say anything tonight because I normally chip in and say something, but
It wouldn't be a meeting, Jez, without you chipping in.
I think
so
it's good. I
please.
think it's good what you've said. I was going to say, without judging, being aware, and that Professor Mark Williams book, that gives the 3-minute meditation.
Right, I don't know that one.
It's like an hourglass or an egg timer. First minute, you stop. Well, the 3 minutes, you know what's going on. What am I thinking? And the second minute is the middle bit of, I think it's what are you feeling? And you're breathing while you're doing this, and the third one is, okay, sort of processing it, and then what am I going to do? Which is being aware. But, well, no buts about anything. I need the observer to remind me to be aware. It happened to me today.
Yeah.
And I was sort of aware. Basically, I sat in my van a lot of the day because it was raining, but I did a lot of paperwork, and I managed to get out, right down to Dungeness for about quarter of an hour, half an hour, towards the end of the day, and I was sort of rushing around, I'll get this done before it rains, because it really was threatening all day. And I thought, what are you getting wound up for? You're getting sort of, I was sort of, it was as if I was under threat, well, I was under threat of rain. So I was getting a bit tense. I was aware of it. And I thought to myself, like that sort of thing, but I need a lot more of that.
Yeah.
And I can't seem to get to that point where I allow myself the time to go, right now, let's be aware.
Yeah. It's that conscious effort. Because that's what we talked about last week, didn't we? About succeeding to be mindful and failing to be mindful. And it is.
We remind each other sometimes, don't we? Be mindful.
No, that's good. That is good. Yeah.
But it does need that little conscious intervention.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of unfortunate, because you sort of feel that the aim is to be able to, almost elevate yourself above that, so that you become, that's what Buddha was trying to do, wasn't he? When he was trying to reach nirvana, he was trying to elevate himself above all of that. But for us, day to day, it takes effort and it takes conscious thought. But it is just about connecting with the observer, so that it can just spread some of its awareness. Because that's all the observer is. It's just pure awareness.
I think maybe that's the only difference between meditating and awareness. If you're going to meditate, you've got to put time by.
Well, you have. Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
Whereas when you're just being mindful, it's trying to remember. But if you're going to meditate, you need to have made that decision and organised yourself. And that's the difference you've got to get into.
Yes. Because with a lot of meditations, there's an image as a starting point, or a question, or a something that you bring to mind.
Yeah.
You then work through, or whatever. Which is slightly different.
I think that's the difficult bit, isn't it? It's reminding yourself to use that when you need it.
Definitely. Which is why things like this are good. Because it's that
It's that little time once a week that you can, Renewing.
Well, yeah. It's like that. It's like a weekly visit to the library.
I don't think we'd be here unless we found it beneficial anyway.
Well,
That's right.
No.
I wouldn't
No,
be.
that's right.
No.
If I didn't find it beneficial, I do. Yeah.
It's a nice bit of freedom, I feel. Step off the world,
Yeah.
if you like, and just
Yeah.
allow myself the time to come and
Yeah,
sit here
absolutely.
and be mindful. And it's not a lot to ask of yourself, I don't think, to come and do that all too.
that's right.
It's a treated as a luxury.
Good for you.
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah, I think so.
Good. Right. Should we breathe? I'm going to invite the bowl to stand. We can give the bowl a good old.
Dogging.
I don't know if I should give you the opportunity to rephrase that.
I think ding would be better.
Because she's got a torch with us.
Yeah, she's got
We're right seaside humour, aren't we?
aggression coming in there.
Okay.
We can't be mindful of laughing, can we?
Well, you can. Well, you can because there's that. Have you seen or tried laughing yoga? Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, I've
It's
heard
fantastic.
Is it?
It's fantastic, and I did incorporate a bit of it into a workshop I once did at a festival. But you get a group of people together and you just start laughing, and it starts off as a false laugh. So the guy I saw it, the guy that's developed it.
They do it on the tube and stuff.
Yeah, big Indian fella, and he would start with this really full, very false laugh, and everybody would join in, and yet it starts off as forced, and then within about 10 seconds, you're just in hysterics, and everybody's just laughing, and it's brilliant. It's really good. It's really good.
Who was it? There was something on the television the other week. I can't think who it was. It was going round.
Sorry.
There was this, again, a group of Indian women, and that was exactly what they were doing. I can't think who. Oh, it was, what's her name? That does the Bake Off.
Oh, yeah.
The dark haired with glasses.
Sue thingy.
Sue somebody, isn't it?
Yes.
Perkins. And she went to this place, and it was all sort of like young women, middle-aged, old women, and she said, I don't know what's going. But that was exactly what they were doing. They were laughing, you know, and it was that time of the day that they. And she said, you had to laugh. You were drawn into it.
It's good.
You know? Yeah.
And it can make you. It does bring you to the present moment as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That laughter. Because it does, in the same way as when you connect with your breath and all the other things just sort of evaporate. The same thing happens when you're laughing, doesn't it? All those worries and concerns and all the stuff
Stuff.
Yeah.
just sort of evaporates a little bit.
Stress.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Throwing all my stuff out, aren't I?
You are.
Let's breathe. So you may close your eyes if you wish. But we begin by connecting with the breath at the nostrils. And just feel the air entering and leaving the body. And then we can follow the breath back to the back of the throat, aware of the air moving up and down in the neck. And then moving down, we become aware of the breath at the top of the chest, aware of the movement. And you breathe in and breathe out. Just following each breath as it happens. And then aware of the breath down at the base of the lungs, at the diaphragm. Now you can become aware of the pause between breaths. As you breathe in, you breathe out, and then you pause. And it's within that pause, when everything is still, you can really establish that connection with the observer. Now if you place your hands on your knees so your fingertips are facing away from you, you can connect your breath with your fingertips. As that happens, it's as if the breath is being drawn in through the fingertips. You're aware of the life within your fingertips. You're able to be aware of the breath drawn all the way up through the fingertips, up past the wrists, up the arms, and down into your chest. And in doing that, aware of the life within your body, reaching up from your fingertips, past your wrist and your elbow, all the way to your heart and your chest. The next few moments, just be aware of the breath from the fingertips to the chest and back. Always connecting with the pause in between. When you breathe in, you feel alive, and you breathe in and return to your body. And when you breathe out, you're able to release. You're just able to release everything to the present moment. Release anything you may be holding inside, and just release it to the present moment on the out breath. And you should find that as you allow your mind and body to release on the out-breath, the stillness of that pause increases. Your awareness of that stillness improves. The quality of that pause, that peace, and that stillness becomes amplified. Breathe in and feel alive. You breathe out and release. And then just enjoy the pause. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.